Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com with a video on how the internet works. So how does the interwebs or the intertubes work? Let's talk about it. So bottom line is that the internet is essentially literally what is referred to as a interconnected network of computers. So essentially what you do is you have this massive network of computers, and every computer has a unique address called an IP address. Your phone has an IP address, my laptops have an IP address, every device has an IP address. And every computer in that network really kind of fulfills one of two roles. It's either a server that kind of stands on by receiving requests, and then there are clients who are out there making requests from servers on the internet. Cool, but how does a client, your laptop, through the, let's say, the Chrome browser, how does that client make a request and it get to the server? Well, there's a lot of things going on. Okay, but when you think about like IP addresses and how information gets routed, that's the TCP/IP protocol. So everything gets an address and everything kind of routes things to each other. Okay, now the exact language and how that request gets into that address, that's called the HTTP protocol. So what happens is that when you put your, let's say you put the alexmercedcoder.com in your Chrome browser, what Chrome sends out is what's called an HTTP request. And there's different ones like get, post, update, delete. 90% of the time what you're doing is you're making a get request. You're saying, hey, Chrome, go get me this. And that basically what it says is like, go get alexmercedcoder.com. So that request goes, and the thing is, it doesn't know what the IP address, what computer has alexmercedcoder.com. So it gets sent to another network called the domain name service, which is a network of computers that are like sort of like address books. So they actually have the listing that says, well, alexmercedcoder.com is listed at this IP address. That's the computer you want to go talk to get alexmercedcoder.com. So the DNS service, so that's why if you ever had a domain name, you have to set your DNS servers, because those are the servers that list where your website is hosted. Okay, so basically you'd have your DNS server that would point you to the right computer, and then the computer that hosts your computer would do its thing. So basically the DNS would return the IP address of where alexmercedcoder is located. Then your browser would once again send a new GET request to that IP address, and then that server, which is listening because it has a server running that's listening on a particular port. So think of every IP address as an address, like a building, and then like an apartment building, and then the port number being the apartment buildings inside that building. So just knowing the right apartment complex doesn't help me. I need to know the right apartment. So I'm sending a GET request to the right IP address on the right port where there is a server listening. It sees a GET request and says, oh, you're looking for that information for alexmercedcoder.com, this particular information? Here you go. And then it returns that information. Your computer receives it and then parses it onto your browser. Okay, and that can come across as many different files. Okay, so typically the files that show what's rendered on your screen, it's called an HTML file because it's written in HTML, hypertext markup language, which basically tells your browser how to display stuff on the screen that it receives from that HTTP request. Okay, but nowadays it's a lot more sophisticated. Okay, instead of having one HTML file that says everything, you have an HTML file that really lays out the structure of your website. Then you have a CSS file so it'll link to a CSS and a JavaScript file. The CSS file will say, okay, all that stuff that you have structured in the HTML page is going to look like this, and then your browser follows the instructions from the CSS. Also, some of the stuff might be clickable and do fun, cool things. The JavaScript file will tell it, okay, well, these are the cool interactive things you can do with that web page. And that will be linked to through your HTML file. So essentially that GET request goes back, grabs that HTML file, displays the stuff on the screen, gets the instructions from the proper JavaScript and CSS files, and then makes further requests. So if you have images on that HTML page, so you have a picture as a banner, it's going to make a separate GET request to go get that image. You have a video you're showing your users, it's going to go make a separate GET request to go get that information. Are you interacting with a database on that server to go pull user information? It's going to go send another GET request. But maybe you need to send information, like you're putting in a new post on Facebook. Well, that's going to send out a post request over to Facebook to send that information over. okay? And this is what web designers are doing, okay? If you're what's called a front-end web developer, you're working with creating that thing that you see in the front, that thing that gets rendered by the browser, the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript. If you're a back-end developer, you are processing what happens on the server. Basically, one, how does the server receive those requests, and what does it do with those requests? That's all back-end work. Okay, so creating the database that's on that server, creating the logic for how it handles those requests that come in from get, post, delete, update requests. Basically, how do you retrieve that information from the database? Basically by creating what's called an API. So all that's what's happening on the back end. So there's front-end developers who handle the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Then you have back-end developers who use another programming language, which could be JavaScript, to do all that other stuff that happens on the server. And then programmers or developers who know how to do both are called full-stack developers, or again, are managing this whole process and making sure that the experience for you, the users, is as smooth as possible. Make sure that when your computer makes a request, it gets the right information and gives you the information you need. But that's essentially how the internet works, and why sometimes some websites don't work. Because when it makes a GET request, it may know what IP address to go to, but there's nothing there. Or the computer doesn't know how to handle the request because the server wasn't set up right, or the server doesn't know that it's supposed to be serving you information for this website, or it's sending you to the wrong server. Or there is no DNS server assigned to that domain name, so it can't get an IP address at all. All sorts of possible different errors could be going on. And that's why you get those little like 404, 301 type errors that kind of tell you why things went wrong. So hopefully this gives you a little bit more perspective on how the internet works, what web developers do, and sort of the grand scheme of things. But my name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Have a great day and enjoy.